All right, everybody, this is it. This is the final 2 hours of the 24-hour first period of the Kickstarter for the Big Pockets silicon battle mats. They're available for only $13.50 US each. That's the base pledge for the Kickstarter, and the way it works is you make your pledge for your battle mats, and then everything else that we unlock during the campaign, including transparent maps, printed transparent maps, custom print options for the mats, and all the other stuff that it's going to be unlocking, which I'm going to be demonstrating and talking about. You just add those on in any quantity and any variety that you want, all the way up to the end of the campaign, where we will send out the final survey, and you'll be able to lock in your order, and then we'll work out the shipping for exactly what you've ordered and send it out to you straight as soon as it gets manufactured. And okay, so without further ado, let's show you what we're talking about here. I'm just going to flip over to my other camera. Hey, there we go. So we've got a link to the Kickstarter down below, and the silicon battle mats are only $13.50 US, or if you're in New Zealand, you'll see it listed in New Zealand currency. I think depends on how you have your Kickstarter set up. It should be about $19 for these big. These are printed with hex on one side. They're 1-inch hex on one side and 1-inch squares on the other side, and they go all the way up to the edge of the thing, as you can see. These things are silicon, so they will, and this is also the generic character sheets, which give you an example of how transparent the transparent sheets look, kind of thing. And this is a tracker, which has got like a round counter or an initiative counter that goes from 20 down to 1 down below here. And it's got a bunch of squares at the top where you can track ammunition or coins or spell slots or healing potions or whatever, and it's got a little grid down the bottom here, so you can say if you're on an online game or something like that, or you need to pass a note to your DM, you can have this recyclable, infinitely reusable bit of silicon that you can just hold up to your camera and say, This is what I'm doing, DM. My character's going from here to here on your battle mat. It's pretty easy and good to use, and because it's silicon, it scrunches up to really small sizes, as you can see, and it never creases or folds, and it always lays perfectly flat. Same thing with the battle mats here. You can scrunch these up as much as you want. They're extremely sturdy and resistant. They're basically has the same heat resistance qualities as a baking sheet, the silicon baking ware that you use in kitchens and things. So it's also a chemically inert surface that will basically resist any sort of crafting glue, permanent markers, wet dry erase markers. It's a really, really good wet dry erase surface. As you can see, it's very smudge free, but with just a simple damp cloth, it comes straight away. And the same applies, get this, watch and marvel. Here we have a where are we? This is a Stevens Vivid permanent marker, right? Bic Stevens Vivid. I've got a Sharpie around here somewhere as well. Watch. So here's a permanent marker. Normally on a Chessex map or various other vinyl or like even some of the coated paper mats that they have on the market, you wouldn't do that in your wildest dreams, because clearly that would leave a terrible stain that would get on there. If you put that on there for like more than a couple of minutes, it's going to leave a permanent mark on your Chessex mat probably. Even if you leave like blue or red or green dry erase markers, sometimes overnight or 24 hours or a year or whatever, your Chessex mat may actually like be permanently stained by that, which I've heard is a fairly common complaint. This will also withstand epoxy resin, green stuff, hot glue, soldering, iron solder. The only thing I found that will damage this as far as glues and solvents goes is super glue, which is cyanoacrylate glue. You don't want to use that on this because it has a bonding surface on, which changes the nature of the surface of the silicon. It won't like destroy it, but it will leave like a little rough patch, which ruins the dry erase effect on the silicon mat. So avoid using silicon, but anything other sort of crafting glue, absolutely fine. Acrylic paints, oil paints, anything like that will just wipe straight off. So this is a perfect painting surface for doing all your miniatures and things like that. You can use your hot glue to like make wrought iron fences, which you just peel off after they're cooled, and like make little mini pixies and things like that. Put them on toothpicks. There's so many possibilities. Okay, so we've got the permanent marker on here for a while now, and watch this. My cloth is not actually very dry at all, as you can hear. It's kind of like scrunching. Screech. So as you can see, it's gone. It's gone. Fresh as a daisy, like it was first born. So it's an absolutely fantastic material. And the main reasons why I've made this, not only just because I can and I really wanted the experience of like the whole Kickstarter thing and things, is I'm actually trying to save the planet a little bit in my own small way. This material, it won't contribute to landfills or anything like that because it's never going to break or wear out. You'd have to do something just insane, like put it through a weed whacker, or put it through a wood chipper or something like that to really seriously damage it. It's quite thick. Obviously you don't want to cut up your miniatures with a a razor or anything like that on here, or use it as a chopping board. But any wear and tear from normal sort of gaming or crafting life, it's fantastic for putting like a resin 3D printer on here, because the resin will just peel straight off it. You can just wipe up any spills and stuff. It's chemically inert, it won't react to anything. You can bake pizzas and cookies and things. In fact, I've got a plan of cooking a cookie dungeon with my mum. So we're going to make some cookies, and then we're going to construct an edible dungeon on the sheets, or make like a pizza monster, things like that. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, so basically I just wanted to make a gaming mat that blows the price of all the other stuff out of the water. Gives you a really good opportunity to get in at the Kickstarter and basically buy it at a retailer, sort of like a manufacturer to retailer price, so that everybody gets the sort of price that normally distributors would get. So, and since the Kickstarter is only going for the next 29 days, there's just a limited time to get that deal. But because we're in the last 2 hours of the 24-hour period of the first sort of run of the Kickstarter, getting that funded within 24 hours looks really good, and we're at 58%, and it really doesn't take a lot to get us there. And I'm calling on you to help me out, and just sort of spread the word. Even if you can't back it, I know everybody's gone through a lot with the pandemic and everything, but even if you can just spread the word to your friends and family, or get involved and just like put a little $1 donation in there, just so you're in the Kickstarter, and you can change your pledge later to as your finances free up and stuff. That makes a world of difference. Hello everyone. Okay, I can finally respond to all the comments here. I'm going to be doing some mapping and stuff on here as well, and talking about applications for the sheets and things that I see being a real benefit. And I'll just switch camera. Hello Carney Graves. Hello Knights of Vision. Hello Nikolai. Hello Seraph the Fallen. I'll be catching a lot of you because it's not normally the time of morning or night that I'd be live streaming. So yeah. Hello Horn King. Bam, and the dirt is gone. Exactly. Now, normally I would be answering lots of D&D questions. Obviously, my live streams that I do every weekends on the channel here is normally all about that. But this is very much about mapping and using sheets and terrain and things like that. Thanks, Morgan, for the super chat. If you've got any super chat inclinations, please go over to the Kickstarter and get involved. I don't normally say don't give me super chats, but in this particular instance, I really need you to express all of your joy and and love over on the Kickstarter. Porque obrigado. Thanks, Jinka. Cookie Dungeons, that's right. Yeah, even if you don't even play D&D, this is a really fantastic surface for baking. It's a really good baking sheet. wait, sudden live stream. Kick-ass Duke, that's a good question. Yeah, there was a pre-existing campaign where the funding goal was totally different, and because the factory basically changed the conditions of the manufacturing, and we managed to have the minimum manufacturing order number reduced. So that reduced our funding goal for our Kickstarter. So we couldn't change the existing Kickstarter. So we basically just had to make a new Kickstarter. And we took that opportunity to take on board everybody's suggestions for the ordering structure and stuff like that. Like everybody wanted customized. They wanted to pick and choose what items they wanted to add to their Kickstarter, and I totally understand that. So we have all of the pre-existing items that, like the sheets and the battle mat and the character sheet and the tracker sheet, will all be included and unlocked as the Kickstarter goes along. So the first thing we wanted to do was concentrate on the battle mats and the battle mat options, and then we'll be unlocking the character sheet, and then we'll be unlocking the tracker sheet, then we'll be unlocking the cheap canvas bag. Dirt cheap. It's like so the tracker mat is only $2.50 US. The character sheets are $5 US. The canvas bags are only $6.65 US for a pretty damn good bag. Here it is here. And as you can see, this fits. I've got a laptop, I've got my 3 core books, I've got my dice set, I've got some pens and stuff in here, and this will fit all of your sheets and stuff in there as well. It's got a shoulder strap and everything, and it's a sturdy tote bag with a zip top, using pretty sustainable canvas material. Yeah. Hey, the session's getting cut short. We need the mat to bake some cookies. Yeah, so the other good advantage of this material is that you can, and because I sort of demonstrated that it's really smudge resistant, you can pre-draw your battle maps and stuff and roll up your battle mat and transport it to your game in your bag or whatever, and just roll it out and be ready to go. And because of the price of these is pretty damn low, you can have multiple mats. So they're a standard A1 sheet size, paper sheet size, which means that you can have multiple of them covering any sort of surface you want, and just basically align them up edge to edge on your table. They are, because of the wet dry surface has got a little bit of like a comfortable grip feel to it. It won't slide around easily on your table like a lot of other laminated sheets will, and it won't blow around in the wind. If anybody like disturbs it or roughs it up, it just lies flat every single time. Okay, so let's do some mapping, shall we? And I'll start answering some questions, and hopefully some of you are heading over to the Kickstarter to show your support. Where's my thing? There it is. Okay, so way back when I started first playing D&D, we had the D&D basic box set. And in the inside cover of the box, on the lid, I think it was, or possibly it was the inside cover of the one of the, I think it was a Dungeon Master's like booklet. It had this chart of symbols that you use for mapping, which I think have become pretty much the standard for everyone. So your walls are basically just a straight line. A wall with a door is just a square like this. A wall with like a secret door would be like this. A wall with like a trapped secret door would be like that. A window is just like basically an open gap like that, or an open doorway, or you could have a window with just like dots across it, or a curtain would just be a wavy line. And then you have more interesting things like on the floor you might have a statue which has got like a star symbol to represent a statue or object or monument. A fountain or something, or a dais or something, would just be like a little elevated thing like that. You could have, the fountain could be like a pool, in which you would have just a wave symbol in the middle there, very simply to represent that it's water. Or if you've got a pen, of course, you can just, with these, you can just add a little bit of blue pigment, and all of a sudden it's a, you know, a water course or something. And normally I would represent the flow of a river or something with little swirly marks on it. And there's various other features, like you have crevasses and things represented by these sort of downward looking things, and you could have the elevation represented by lines which come up from the bottom. Very simple. And there's wells and trapdoors. Trapdoor on the floor, or trapdoor on the ceiling represented with a circle. Secret doors and things, or dart traps and pit traps, and all sorts of different stuff like that. And you can very simply create your dungeon complex using these basic symbols, and they were just the standard that everybody could sort of understand and use. Now, after years and years of DMing, my maps are actually generally very simple. The distance with squares and things like that on a tactical map like this mean that you can easily calculate how far spell ranges and things like that are. But really, your twisting and turning and changes and loops and stuff, all your complexities of your dungeon construction, I always look at it from the player's point of view and what actually makes a difference in combat. So an area like this makes a really good place for a bunch of characters to bottleneck some monsters in these rooms who are coming at them, so that the monsters can't converge on them from different sides. It makes sense that the characters would back up into a corridor here, so that the monsters can only approach them single file, and then they can take them on one at a time, which greatly magnifies the effectiveness of these players. If the players outnumber the monsters in a dungeon, they can easily flank them around there and get advantage on their attacks and things, and quickly whittle down that monster. They can block off areas with spells and things like that, like casting a web spell over this area here to stop any monsters coming through from another room and investing, hearing the ruckus of combat. They would come through and get, like, they've got all this wall of web here. Or you would do something like have spike growth in the middle of the room. Here I'm just erasing with my fingertip. How's that? We'd have, say, spike growth represented by this here in the area that the spike growth is in. And then you would have a grease spell right here. So the monsters come through here, they hit the grease, and they slide directly onto the spike growth. And then every time they try and get up and out of the spike growth area, they fall over and land on the spikes again. So it's a really nasty combination. Stuff like that. Now, as I said, I like to keep my maps nice and simple, but also I'm an artist and I like doing creative things. And also there's been some really good iconic artists for maps like Dyson Logos. And Dyson has this technique where he makes the maps look really aesthetically pleasing and represents the outside area, so the solid rock around the maps. Boy, my cloth is like bone dry now. There you go. Erasing with a bone dry cloth. There you go. You can also use wet wipe markers and things like that if you want to, but I advise you not to use wet wipes because they're not very environmentally friendly. Just use a cloth that you can put through the wash. Okay, so Dyson Logos has got this style which you may recognize, which is here's our dungeon room. He has these alternating crosshatch marks that are at a slight angle to each other, usually in lines, 3 lines, parallel lines. And he does this around the whole area. He does this with like ink pens and stuff. but it's just as effective with a marker pen like this. So as you can see, it highlights and isolates the area inside the dungeon, and you know, you have your outside world and your inside of the dungeon. Like so. And a lot of people have copied that style, including there's now online mappers and things like that that can copy that style as well. This is it's a fairly thick surface, and it doesn't really, you can't really see a lot of the stuff. Like, you can't see the map underneath there, even though I've just, like, so you can see on the table, if you have like a map over top of another map, you won't be able to see the map underneath, which means that you can use these as a fog of war and just reveal areas as you go. Oh, we got a bit of smudge there from my fresh markings with my pen. So if you wanted to have like an overlay effect, we've got some clear sheet as well. I think I've got them in the other room somewhere. Yeah, I do. But this sort of would represent it as well. Here's the character sheet here. If you overlay that, you can see that you can make an overlay of that. And let's say somebody's got a spell effect that they just can't be bothered doing the graphics for it all the time. You could have, this is the area effect of this character's fireball. So they cast fireball in the corner and they go, how many people does it hit? Oh, the template hits that many people. So you can use your character mat, your character sheet, generically for all sorts of different things. So you can actually use that space there for a spell effect. Or a character illustration or something like that. You can also lay it over an image of your character's, you know, the portrait or whatever. And the idea behind the character sheets is it just sort of complements your online character sheets that you would use on your phone, your smartphone or something like that. Because these days I basically just assume that people are going to have smartphones at the table and stuff and make full advantage of it. So this would be like, you keep your basic details about your character, like their hit points, their basic attribute bonuses and skill bonuses, their like spell save DC and things for if you're playing 5th edition, or if you're playing Call of Cthulhu, would have other stats and your percentiles and things like that, and some more interesting notes like the kind of skills that they use all the time, and just a note-taking area here that you can keep records during the campaign temporarily and just wipe them all off afterwards, transfer them into your character journal or onto your phone so that you're not basically messing and distracted with your phone all the time, and you can keep notes that you can show other people very easily without handing over your phone across the table and things like that. So they're also really good for just like showing up on camera and things like that, and it just avoids wasting a lot of paper. Because I always tend to take paper notes about things as I'm gaming. So it just sort of basically lessens your environmental footprint a little bit more. So it's always better to, even if you can avoid even using paper, it's just good. And they will last you a lifetime, and they're cheap enough that you can have enough for everybody at the table. It's really good with kids and things like that who... you know, marker pens and things like that. Like, these are non-toxic Crayola pens. Yeah. So yeah. What would it? I'll just switch back to the chat. What would everybody like to know about dungeon design that I can sort of talk about? There are. I think there's one or two other I know there's at least one manufacturer of Ergon Games produces a silicon battle mat. The Ergon Games one is, I think it's a little bit, it's like a slightly different shape size than this. It may actually be slightly bigger, and it's thinner than this one as well. And the grid is slightly different. And of course the price is quite a lot higher. And also they are usually run out of stock of things, like their frosted transparent sheets, for instance, are quite often out of stock. Yeah, you can also play Call of Cthulhu, or Traveller, or Pathfinder, or Warhammer 40k, or, you know, anything. Numenera. Hey, James. Hey, I'm Lazy. How's it going? I'm good, thank you. It's midnight here. Not normally when I would come on in a live stream. Hey, thanks, Seraph. I'm going to take a shot of coffee as a salute to you pledging. Thank you very much. I did briefly contemplate having a slug of alcohol once everybody pledged, but I'm not that crazy. Also, I think YouTube would kind of like take a dim view of that. Yeah, aliens will find them in 10,000 years and they'll be able to reconstruct human role-playing habits. Maybe. I don't actually know how long the silicon will last in the environment, but it's very chemically inert. And basically, direct sunlight, oxygen, water, heat, those sort of things are required to break down materials, but silicon is extremely durable. Hey, Epic Thulu, thanks, man. Thank you, Kick-Ass Duke. Thanks for your backing of 2 battle mats. Hoping to get those trackers. Yep. So the next thing, when we hit 80% funding, I'm going to unlock the printed transparent sheets, the large A1 size sheets, which are the same size as the battle mats here. So those are the ones they're not entirely, like, they're not optically clear transparent. They're more like this sort of frosty transparent. But it's fairly effective when you're actually at the table and looking at it. It doesn't look that perfectly transparent on camera, but it's okay. With people have suggested, like, we want the grids on there, so there'll be an option to have a printed grid on one side of the. Obviously, you don't have a double-sided print of the grid, but we can do that with one side of the sheet, and it'll be the same price as the regular opaque ones. I really love the hex pattern. Like, I love hex crawling and doing my world building using a hex symbols and stuff. So let's flip over the mat here and do some and talk about the history and common symbols of mapping with a hex grid. How to describe a dungeon room? I can certainly talk about that. So the main thing when you're describing a dungeon room is pay attention to your character's abilities. Like, some of them have got really sharp senses. You can their passive perception check. If you're playing 5th edition, the passive perception check gives you a very good idea of which character is going to notice things. So what I suggest you do is you keep a list of the ascending level of perception that the characters have, and it's okay to point out to like look at the character who's got the best perception score and point out the fine details that you want them to pay attention to in the room. So if they're walking into a 10-foot by 10-foot dungeon room with a door on the south corner, that's the bare basics. But you can also describe how it smells, what the temperature is, any ambient sounds that they hear, like just describing a drip of some liquid or material and not describing where it comes from, but the general direction. You can lead them through an entire dungeon just on a dripping sound. A faint laughing sound or something like that in the dungeon can give them the heebie-jeebies. Describing how the light reflects from various surfaces, the moss and things on stones and walls, the type of rock that the dungeon is made of. Perhaps it's a basalt rock which is built inside a cliff that you thought was made of limestone. So did they transport the basalt here, or did the limestone actually form around the basalt millions of years ago? So these sort of things make a lot of difference. Elves and characters with dark vision, they see in tones of black and white black, white and grey with their dark vision. They don't see in colour when they don't have torches and things. So although it may seem like the character who doesn't have dark vision and has to carry a torch is a huge disadvantage, it may be critically important in a dungeon that has a theme of colour through it. So for instance, if it's a temple or something like that of a god that is represented by the colour purple, or is particularly fond of gold or jade or something like that, greens and golds and those sort of things may make a huge difference for cluing them into where is the safest path to go, that sort of thing. Okay, let's flip over and talk about some outdoor dungeon mapping. So here we have the vast array of the open grid. Typically, outdoor wilderness grids would be like a 12 to 24 mile area in this grid here. So we going from one to the other and exploring an entire area where you basically unveil the map as they travel is called a hex crawl type adventure, and it's a fantastic way of exploring a wilderness, including the ability to get horribly lost. And one of the things I use is a D8 for all the different cardinal directions on the compass, and a D6 to represent miles, and you can actually go off course by rolling to see which direction you're going in, and rolling the D6 to show how many miles. So, it might be how many hexes you've actually traveled. So you could travel half a day in the wrong direction if somebody's lost their way. Okay, so let's talk about some common mapping symbols. Obviously, we've got hills. So this little area here, and I'm not sticking entirely to like a formulaic exact pattern here, but these would represent rolling peaceful hills that have sort of wandering streams and little stands of trees, happy fluffy little trees, like a little stand of old trees like that. Could be a fruit orchard or something. You could even represent it with like apples. And it's got a road represented by a dashed line like that. If it's like a sort of a cart track, or if it's a more sort of formal road, it might have two close together sort of cart track lines and then branching off into various areas. You could even write a little signpost representing where the local town or the nearest town is or something. The river might have like a little bridge, which is just represented by these two slightly curved parallel lines representing the arch of the bridge going over top of it. It may have a shallow area with some stones there representing the ford that the track goes over. You may enter like some broken ground, which is represented by these sharp wavy lines close together. So that would be basically broken up or eroded or sharp or rocky, or maybe possibly areas where there's bits of stone which poke up through the hills in certain areas. And then this would be leading into foothills, which then lead into mountains or mountainous terrain. So a mountain that size would represent a mountain that covers a 24 or maybe even 30 or 40 mile area. And of course, a massive mountain range, they overlap each other like this. And you can even represent it by, this is so big, it goes into cloud cover. So there we go, massive mountains. And and then we have lakes, which are basically just represented by a big circle, and you could have trade routes along lakes. Towns and things could be represented by just like a little house shape for like a village. Normally these would be like a solid color, or you could have various symbols on them. So that would be like a church or a cathedral. You could have a little crenellated top area here representing a keep, maybe even a little portcullis door down the bottom there. You could have something like a wizard's tower, something like that. You could have a mill represented by the water wheel on the side, and all sorts of different things like that. And usually caves or things like that, like a hill with a cave or lair in it, would be represented by this sort of symbol like that. And of course, villages might be like a simple little series of huts. Desert terrain is usually either represented by lines with dots like this, but I quite often just use a wavy pattern representing a drawn out wavy pattern representing the sand dunes like that. Grasslands would be just sort of either blank, the default, or you would represent grass like this, little tufts of grass. Or if you had them spread out in a fan shape with a gap in the middle, it becomes marshland, representing reeds and tussock and things like that. Because reeds have kind of got like those little fluffy top bits, and then like the stalks that go down to the middle. Soggy ground could be represented by dots. So that would be bogs and things like that, with the marshland around it, which just sort of blends in nicely. Jungles can be represented by a trunk with just an X on the top, representing fern trees. Or you can represent a forest, a solid thick forest, with just a rounded sort of cloud shape like that. And if you want to get really fancy, you can have some trunks around the edge, which just show you that it gives a slight perspective, showing you that this is in fact a forest. And then the outskirts of the forest might have little individual trees leading up to the main thing. So you could say this is lightly wooded and this is densely wooded forest. And of course trails and things which go through the forest as well. So that's just some basic symbols that you would use for your hex crawl mapping. And it's really easy. There's all sorts of lists of different symbols that you can use online, and you really don't need to be very complicated to have quite an impressive looking map. At the end of it, it can look really great, and it's great for leaving a great record of what your terrain and stuff looks like. Afterwards, of course, even though this is a dry erase surface, you can take a photo with your smartphone and keep it on file. You can even then display that photo on a monitor and put your sheet over top of it and trace it back on there again. Or you can use your transparent sheet over top of your mapping terrain, your pre-mapped terrain, and just represent your character's motion and things that they've discovered in notes and things like that along the way. So you can reuse your map over and over again if you wanted to. These pens will stay on here basically indefinitely. Thank you, Steve, for the super chat donation. Please save your pennies and go and pack that Kickstarter for me. Oh, cacti, that's a good point. Deserts, you sort of assume that cacti would be in deserts, but if you've got like a really like big cacti, you would represent that with like a I'm going to use a Sharpie here. You'd represent that with cacti. Like it's basically a line, a stick with a curve that looks exactly, I'll do it bigger. It's a line with a curve like so, and that's a cactus. Scrubby little bushes and things like that. Could just be like a little squiggle. Or brown or something. Hey, I wonder what happens if I mix a Sharpie with a Crayola. Oh, nice. It makes a toxic waste spill. I like it. Oh, I've left a stain on my pen. Oh, there we go. Boy, these Crayola markers are really good. Zoom. There we go. Underdark terrain, same sort of thing, really. Obviously less forest and things, but you can represent mushroom terrain with just basically round little caps like this. Whoop, 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 whoop. Mushroom forests with like like that, say. Mushrooms, different colours. Hey, Phoenix. The forest doubles as a giant arachno sheep. Yep, that works. The yellow would be great for a radiant attack, yeah. Or let's say you've got you're on Ebron and you've got a lightning rail. Could represent the lightning rail track. Bzzz. Thanks, God of Gamer. I'm the Sorax. Speak for the trees. Cut them down. I break your knees. I like it. Hey, Bruticon. Natsur says we're at 6,600 left to go. Totally doable. You did not see this. Need to see the transparent sheet stretch goal. Yep. So the other things that we've got in the Kickstarter, I'm going to switch over to the other side of the map here again. Hang on, I'll scrunch it up and show you how this thing folds flat. It's awesome. Watch it just sort of gravity folds it flat. Okay. As you can see, that did not smudge at all. I'll take my damn near bone dry cloth and abrasively scrape this off again. Just requires a little bit of extra effort. Like my daddy walking uphill back and forth through the snow to school. I dare you to wipe off wet dry marker with a dry cloth on your Chessex map. Alright. Other products which I'm hoping, if this goes beyond my wildest dreams, let's say you've got a laptop at the table, which I know a vast majority of you will probably be using these days. Witness my orthographic technical drawing skills. That's the thickest screen ever. Okay, so here we have our laptop with our touchpad. Oops. And our keyboard. Excuse me if this is not to scale. Our webcam up the top there. That's the little sticker for, Apple or whatever. Okay, so when you're at the table and you're sitting here hunched over your DM stuff, and you've got a player who's sitting basically right next to you, they're possibly going to be able to see what you're looking at. I've seen many DMs actually tilt the screen over on their laptop to give themselves a little bit of extra privacy. And so the laptop is the modern DM screen. And I thought to myself, what if, maybe, just what if, I could make a really simple privacy screen that brings back the relevancy of the DM screen. Like, I know we're supposed to use DM screens, but I don't actually use DM screens. I collect the damn things, but I never actually use them at my table. But I do use a laptop, a tablet, and various other things. So I came up with this idea for basically a panel that sits at the back of your laptop. It overlaps the top of your laptop a bit, so you've got like an inch or so that you can clip on like notes or initiative orders or any sort of thing there. So you can use like clothes pegs to clip on notes to the top of the screen here easily. And it's just got these simple panels which fold out to the side that you can keep notes on with a dry erase pen. And they also block the prying eyes of your players, or let's say you're at Starbucks or something like that and you're working on your material, that will block the view of anybody who's basically walking past your laptop and give you some extra security and privacy. And because I worried about the bending effect on the corners here, eventually wearing down, like even silicon will eventually wear down from like friction use and stuff, what I did was I basically just made it so that it's got some holes in the corner there, and you can just loop through some zip tie cord or something like that and basically make a replaceable hinge. So you can keep this thing in perfect working condition for your entire life. This also means that these flaps will fold completely around, and they are roughly half the size of the main screen, so they fold up flat on top of your laptop. So you can close up your laptop and they will just sit on the top there as additional padding and protection for your laptop, and you can just slip it into any existing laptop bag, or of course your Big Pockets canvas bag. So that is my final stretch goal, is the silicon laptop cover. Simple, damn near indestructible, practical, basically gives you a solution to a problem you never really thought about before, and it's very elegant, and yeah, I like it. Also, you can slip in, I think there's some inserts there that you can slip in, because the silicon isn't rigid, so we needed to put in some rigid, I think it's like PVC bits inside the silicon, and you may possibly be able to put your own artwork and stuff in there. We haven't completely finalized the design process yet. I haven't funded the molds for these yet. They're about like 2,000 or so, something, to make the molds for it. I have funded the molds for all the sheets and stuff already, which is why they're so incredibly dirt cheap, because they're basically ready to go into production straight away. But this one here and the dice tray, basically it's a hexagonal, is it, yeah, 1 2 3 1 2 3 hexagonal dice tray, which we've all basically seen before in silicon. That's perfect for, like, even this surface here is fantastic for people who use metal dice sets or really sharp polymer dice, and this silicon surface will absolutely protect any sort of table or anything that you put it on. Also, the silicon doesn't transfer heat, so you can put hot food, hot coffee, anything like that on top of here, and it will not damage anything underneath. Yeah. All right, let's switch back. Hello. You just got a standard for now, and I'll wait until next week to add more. Yep, you can keep on adding stuff as the add-ons unlock. It's just sort of critical to get in, like, hopefully we can hit that fully funded within the first 24 hours. Or if not, I would say we're definitely going to get funded by the end of tomorrow, for sure. And then I'll be able to put that fully funded sticker on the Kickstarter, which makes everybody back it a little bit faster. Aren't privacy screens already a thing for PCs and laptops? Yeah, but are they necessarily a gaming tool, though, that you can use a wet dry erase marker on and stuff? That's just the thing. I mean, we might get there, we might not. I'm okay if we just stick with the battle mats and the few things which we have already, the character sheets and the tracker sheets. Those are really cool. How would I draw a giant coral reef on a world map? Let's switch back over to the other side. Zoom. I'm going to flip it upside down so I can use that other side that I haven't drawn on yet. Bop. There we go. So we're under the water and we want a coral reef. Generally speaking, the ocean floor is a big flat area, or you could have big circles which represent elevation. So this could be, and you could write 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, representing the depth that we're going down to. We could have coral structures, which would be wavy broken hills, like so. Obviously, corals are fantastically complicated, but this would represent rocky outcrops with that underwater coral sort of look to it. They're not jagged or sharp, they're kind of curved and very uneven and chaotic. And they represent that there's channels and places to hide in the coral. And then, of course, you would have like a coral palace or something like that, would be the same sort of symbols that you would use on the surface map. So this would be a huge castle, like so. In the under the sea, and you would represent that with solid color. So that would be the lair of a storm giant or a mermaid kingdom or Sahuagin compound or something like that. And of course, the rest of the sort of terrain features would be the same. So you'd have undersea mountains for sure. And these would, of course, come up to, you know, the 100-foot area or the 200 feet. And of course, down here you might even have abysses, which would be represented by that chasm sort of symbol. And that's how I would represent undersea stuff. Hope that helps. Yeah, the topological map. You can do topological lines for your surface map as well, if it's relevant. Now, like if it's a sharp elevation, going 100 feet to 200 feet above sea level in a very short area actually makes quite a bit of tactical difference, because if everybody's running uphill or downhill in combat, if you have like a big battle or something, that's quite important. Hey, thanks, Christopher. Yeah, so many people are like itching to get back to playing in-person games, and I think it'll be really awesome if everybody shows up with the best gaming battle mats you will ever buy for the best ever price. Yeah, no nautical map is complete without a sexy mermaid drawing. Well, of course, we've got to have our map symbol representing, and then we can have sexy mermaid. I'm like, how do I draw a sexy mermaid? Sexy mermaid. There we go. That's a terrible drawing, but whatever. Yeah, being able to draw spells and things like that that you can just easily erase after they're done is really good. If you don't support the Kickstarter, you get a phone call that says 7 days. Mm-hmm. All right. Anybody got any other mapping questions? Dungeon mapping? Flip it back over again. When drawing a humanoid, always start with the head first and then everything down. Yeah, if you're drawing a humanoid figure, here's a basic drawing lesson for you. Say your head is this big. There is essentially 8 of those in a humanoid body. That's the proportion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that gives you the correct proportions of a human. Who has some sort of a gammy leg. So then we have like the abdominal region, upper body, rib cage, waist, arms only go to about there, top of the rib cage, and then the forearms are actually quite long and go down to, there we go. So then we have a proportionate human shape. Quite often I see like the forearms are too short, like they'll put the hand here, but the forearms are actually pretty long on a human. And also the upper thigh is quite often shorter than the lower leg, and it sort of tapers from the top down to the bottom. And the calf muscle is only like the top half of that taper there. Anyway, as a basic humanoid. And of course the ankle is very fine, and then the foot. I always draw feet too big, of course, because I'm a dire hobbit and my feet are enormous. Also, when you're drawing a head of a person, let's say we've got the eyes here, nose, mouth. There's a fairly large gap here with the upper lip and the nose, and there's enough room between the eyebrow and the ear to put the person's entire hand. Like if you just do that now at home, put your hand between your eye and your ear, you can fit your entire hand in there. But the hand will basically cover the entire face bit here. Yeah. So there you go. That's the proportions of a human face and the cheekbones. Past the age of 30, people get these lines around the side of their mouth, typically. And usually the first wrinkles to show up will be crow's feet around the eyes, and a slight dimpling of the brow, and then you get lines across the forehead. You'll get thinner people will have a more pronounced cheek hollow. Let's get rid of that hand there. Have more pronounced cheek hollow. The top of the ear will be in line with the top of the eyebrow, and then the bottom of the ear will pretty much be in line with the bottom of the nose. And then there's the jawline sort of starts at where the ear connects to the head. With men, it's sort of a sharper, jutting bit of the corner, and with women, it's more rounded. And with men, there's it's a heavier brow, obviously, so it may protrude a bit more from the cheek, and there'll be a dimple in the side here, where the brow steps in. And then, of course, the sideburns. Hairline is usually a lot higher in men. And the neck sort of starts there, like so. And the shadow, of course. There we go. How to draw a human. Or an elf. Half elf with a pointy ear. Hey, it's Mr. Spock. Thank you, Captain. There we go. Bit of drawing 101. Hey, Ellie. Yeah, so Ellie, what it is there's one pledge level. So this is how it works. The Kickstarter has one pledge level, which is you buy the Battlemat. Doo-doo-doo. And that is your $13.50 US, or it'll be listed for most people as $19 New Zealand, because that's where I live and that's my currency. So that's your basic pledge. Then once you have pledged, you unlock add-ons. So as the Kickstarter progresses, we unlock more and more add-on options. So we'll have the character sheet, the tracker mat, various options for different print, for the battle mats. You can add on as many battle mats or as many of these other products as you like, which will increase your overall pledge. So I see quite commonly, the most common pledge at the moment is I think it's $32, which represents people buying multiples of those. So they're backed for the sheet, the battle map, and then they bought another battle map and another battle map and stuff. And as we unlock more stuff, people can keep on adding or subtracting things. They can alter their pledge as much as they want, all the way up to the final, when we've finally funded. And then we send out a rewards survey. And the survey is where you add, you basically finalize where your delivery address is so that we know exactly where we're sending it to in the world. We've got orders from all around the world, from as far away as the outer reaches of Canada to like Turkey and Istanbul. We've got orders from all over the place, backers from all over the place. So obviously we can't have a flat shipping rate because they're going around the entire world. They're all being sent out from China, where the manufacturing is. So Mei Mei is working over there in China for us. Hi, Mei Mei. And also because you'll be able to add any combination and any number of products that you want to your pledge, it will vary the weight of your package as well, which of course is critically important to how much your postage costs. So we'll work out the weight of the estimated weight of your package, of your pledge, and your location to give you exactly what your shipping is once the Kickstarter is over and your reward survey is filled out. Once that's finalized and you've gone okay and finalized that payment, off it goes and it gets delivered to you to your door. And that is how the Kickstarter works. We wanted people to be able to put together whatever they need. So obviously the main focus is on the battle mats, but some people have no interest in the canvas bag, for instance. Some people have no interest in the tracker sheet, or very little interest in the generic character sheet. But pretty much everybody is interested in the battle mats. So yeah, and that also includes the transparent battle mat sheets as well, and any other products that we unlock, such as the laptop cover screen. And the dice trays. Or anything else that somebody may think of something that we haven't included yet. Like somebody suggested glow in the dark battle mat, which is actually possible. We can make glow in the dark battle mats, and we can also make battle mats that react to temperature or to water. That's actually quite possible. So a silicon battle mat which has glow in the dark properties. I think has a lot of potential for like a disco dungeon, or possibly making your way through the Underdark without any light source, something like that. Lots of possibilities. So if I pledge $76, is that recognized as 4 mats? You're not basically backing a certain amount of money. You're just adding on those options, and it will increase your overall pledge as you go. So you're just selecting the products that you want, not a flat amount of money that you're backing. Your total will add up as you go. It's pretty easy to navigate and see what's going on. If you have any problems with adding add-ons and things like that to your pledge, contact Kickstarter, because it'll be some sort of a glitch with your account or their process. I've seen 1 or 2 people who have had that sort of a problem. That's completely out of my control. I can't do anything about the Kickstarter website or their software. So, but they're very helpful at Kickstarter and respond pretty quickly. So I'd just get in contact with them if you have any sort of problem with your pledge. Cancel it, redo it. It's totally up to you. Any ideas on what shipping for 3 to 4 battle mats to the outer reaches of Canada, inquiring as a frigid Canadian? Well, the main thing is hiring the sled dog teams, and of course the ammunition to ward off starving polar bears, and of course protective gear to protect them from flying hockey pucks. And of course we need to feed the sled dogs beer. But the average sheet is about 775 grams. I'm not sure what that is in pounds for you Americans, which is under a kilo. But you can imagine if you've got 4 sheets, it'll be close to a 2 kilo package. The good thing about the silicon is because it's so indestructible, we don't really need to worry about padding and all that sort of stuff going into the thing. So we can basically just pack them in plastic bags. They'll probably come as a shrink wrapped roll with a little piece of paper on the inside there, just to use minimal plastics, because we really want to avoid adding any plastics to the environmental waste, even for our shipping. So we're going to be sending those out, and I would imagine that's something like $20 US, 25 or so US for the shipping for something like that, because we can sort of compact it down to quite a small size, and it's basically just the weight of the thing. But I don't know exactly what the situation is going to be for international shipping even a month from now, because of the pandemic and the backlog of shipping on the international shipping lanes. It's a fairly crazy situation, and it's completely out of my control. So I wanted to basically leave the shipping until the very last minute, so hopefully we're not stuck with the elevated prices for everything that we have now. Maybe there'll be some solutions. There's a lot of countries which are doing their own charter shipping and things like that at the moment, because most of it will, pretty much all of it will be oceanic freighter shipping. It'll be fairly quick, and it's also got a very low carbon footprint, because freighter shipping obviously uses a lot less hydrocarbon fuels for shipping than airline traffic and things like that. And obviously airline traffic is very restricted around the world at the moment with the pandemic as well. So these things I've all sort of taken into consideration after lots of suggestions from people and feedback on the first round of the Kickstarter, where they said they didn't like having a flat shipping rate. I totally understand that, because obviously people who live in Taiwan are not going to be spending as much money as somebody who lives in Afghanistan for the same products for the shipping. Yeah, I have studied biology, yeah. And I did work in a genetics lab for actually before I became a full-time YouTuber. I quit my job in a genetics lab to become a YouTuber. How's that? It's like, I was a practicing doctor, but now I'm a YouTuber. Cardiology? Bah. Yeah, I've actually got a few family members who live over in Canada. So hello to Mark Schimmel and Linda Bolstad and Ray and Eli and Nio and did you just call New Zealand a small state of Australia? Free shipping? No. If you live in China, obviously the shipping will be overland, I would say. Yes, my cousins Stephen and Raina over in Canada. I've been trying to get them into DMing for a while. Maybe they do. Maybe they play D&D. I don't know. They were hardcore, like military, like almost career military, those guys. Oh, in Quebec. 1.7 pounds. Okay. Thanks, Kakastuke, for the 75 gram. So you can imagine if you roll up this A1 sized sheet and slap somebody at your table around the face, it's 1.7 pounds or 775 grams of slappy goodness. There's nothing quite so satisfying as slapping somebody with a slightly damp rolled up silicon sheet. But like, don't do it too hard, man. You know, you can knock somebody out with these things. You hope they play D&D. There's precious little else to do in the Canadian winter. Yeah, apart from like smoke heaps of herb, I'm sure. It's funny how different my cousins are from each other. Thanks, MT. Yeah, okay, that's a very good question. Will these be available to purchase after the Kickstarter? Yes, they will. So basically, the D&D WoW, which is the dice company. Oh, by the way, let me show you one of their dice that they've got. I'll demonstrate one of the beautiful uses of the silicon mat at the same time. So this bad boy is their skull dice. It's super impressive. Look at that metal tin that you get this in. It's got like a little glass top. There's the D&D WoW logo on there. But can I get that? There we go. Nice. So this die has, see these, focus, skulls, right? Skulls on the dice. Can you see that with the red eye sockets and the chains connecting them on the side there? And that lurid blood-filled thing there. These are massive. Like, my hand is huge. There's the 1 inch squares there. And listen to this. Whoa! Now that will most certainly, I would recommend not ever throwing that across a room. And do not roll it on like a glass tabletop or something, but the silicon sheet will quite easily absorb any sort of damaging impact that it would have on a table and stuff, within reason. I mean, obviously you're not going to slam it down on the table like you're playing Russian roulette or something, or baccarat. Yeah, so that's just one of the dice that that D&D WoW produce, but they also have a whole heap of other stuff, including glow-in-the-dark dice. They've got color changing mood dice. Let's see if I can find some other. These the ones here, it's hard to show up in the textures and stuff up close, but if you look really carefully, that's an illithid head. See the tentacles with the little suckers and things? Right, and the rounded edges on the D4, very important. If like you stand on that thing, this metal dice is not going to inflict emergency room injuries. And these glow in the dark. That's why they're covered in this thick coating here. They glow in the dark. These are also available as like a raw metal with gold highlights. And other options as well, and they're available from D&D WoW's website, or you can buy them from Amazon as well, and they're fantastic. I love these dice. So anyway, the reason why I went off on that tangent talking about D&D WoW is because they are the ones who are helping me out in China, getting this all manufactured, sourcing all the factory stuff, all the distribution. They'll be handling all that stuff, and after the Kickstarter is over, I basically hand over the retail version and the distribution and manufacturing of these products to them. And they set the prices, and they handle all that, and they get profits and stuff for everything that we produce. So my part of it is basically just the marketing and the Kickstartering and the getting these things produced and out there and making everybody aware that they're available, and providing this super good deal of only $13.50 per mat. So afterwards, you'll be able to buy them from Amazon through D&D WoW, and they'll be branded with the Big Pockets logo. So there you go. You want them, yeah. Yep, mouse pads also work really well. A table killer, yeah. Hey, Emil, nice to see you. Yeah, I've got some massive dice as well. Absolutely some massive dice. Oh, the other good thing that my friend Jada pointed out, Jada's also been really helping me out as well. He's over in Australia dealing with snow and mouse plagues. You can use tea lights and things on here, because basically it's a flame-proof surface. You can use melted wax and candles and things like that on here. It will resist any sort of food that you spill on it, and melted wax or even flame directly on the surface will not damage your silicon mat. So the silicon can handle 150 degree temperatures indefinitely. It can handle something like 350 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes without any sort of damage. It can go to minus 60 degrees without changing its malleability, so it becomes brittle if it gets even colder than that, colder than minus 60 degrees centigrade. And I think even if you subject it to something like 500 degrees centigrade, it will basically just become rigid. It will change the properties of it, but it won't burn. So it will never burn through it, which is the important thing. So if you had like a fire in your kitchen and you have a silicon baking sheet like this of this size, you can throw it over top of your pots and pans and cut off the oxygen, and it works as a fire blanket. You can also use it to protect yourself if you are in a fire from flame. It's a flame-proof blanket. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Safety first, everybody. Safety first. Do you get mice plague in New Zealand? No, we don't. No, we don't have those sort of problems in New Zealand. We just don't have a large enough population of mice. Plus, we have lots of predatory birds and things like that deal with them. No more fireball. Yeah, it's true. Z Bashu's video on dice superstitions. I want to watch that. I'll probably go and watch that soon after this. Yeah, the purple dice are absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, D&D WoW basically set out to produce some of the most high quality metal dice and plastic dice with innovative designs and things, and using those chemicals and polymers that allow you to, like, the dice to change color in your hand with the body temperature, or glow in the dark, or that sort of thing. And also they really do take into consideration, like, so many of the metal dice sets that you see on Amazon have those sharp edges on the D4s. If you've got kids at home and they stand on those things, that's it. Your gaming night is over. So yeah, that's very much a concern. So they round off all those edges and things, and also it makes them easier to roll on the tables and things like that. AJ providing his followers with in real life fire resistance. It's true. Judge says that your green set have absorbed energy from your Tomb of Annihilation character deaths. I like it. Time to introduce cats to New Zealand. We've got cats in New Zealand. I've got a cat. Citarun, can you clarify what you mean when you say that you tend to have a problem with two sides of a map separating from each other? Do you know if these mats have similar issues? Two sides of a mat. What do you mean? Oh, do you mean like a laminated mat? This is not laminated. This is solid silicone. So it's integrally printed into the silicone with I'm not entirely sure what process they use, but I have not been able to budge the ink on these. I must admit, I'm not a manufacturing expert, but I cannot. These grids and hexes have not budged one iota, and I've hit these things with petrol. I've tried rubbing off. I've tried all sorts of different solvents on here. No, so the sheet will not separate at all unless you cut it somehow, and I imagine like hitting it with like sandpaper or something like that and scrubbing it would not be a good idea. You don't want to use anything abrasive on the surface, like seriously abrasive. But, you know, rubbing it down with a dry rag and stuff, you can do that until the cows come home, as we say in New Zealand, and it's not going to damage it. No problem, man. Thanks for the question. I haven't even considered that. Nikolai, what's my opinion on homebrew classes like the Accursed? Shall we talk about some D&D stuff? Let's just have a chat about D&D. I've you had me at you can have pizza over it, yeah. Hey, good morning, Shakescan. I have personally got no problem with homebrew stuff, particularly if it's made in tandem with your DM. If you're just like finding stuff online, it can be there's some very unbalanced stuff on like the D&D wiki and things like that. And I would suggest going to like D&D Beyond website and checking out like the homebrew monsters and stuff like that there, because there's a wealth of different things. There's also lots of like characters and stuff that you can just copy paste into your game. So a huge resource on the D&D Beyond website. Also, they've got a really good Discord channel. If you want to go and have a chat and find a game, the D&D Beyond Discord is a really good place to go and find a game. Particularly if you're thinking about getting into D&D. We had a big, long conversation this morning, actually, on there about... there were some people asking, like, how do I get into playing D&D? And they had played Dungeons and Dragons years ago in 1st and I think 2nd edition, and they were just thinking about getting back into D&D, and they were kind of intimidated, like, how much is it different than it was originally and things like that. And we just said, look, just, try and get into like a one-shot game on Roll20 or something like that, or go into one of the Discord servers and just let it be known that you're available for playing games and that you haven't played before for a very long time, but you're familiar with how role-playing games work, and you'll find a game. And then once you've got more familiarity with the gaming system, and of course the D&D 5th edition rules are available in basic form for free on the D&D website. So you can just go and try out D&D without spending any money, and then go into Discord servers without spending any money, and play games without spending any money. Then you can get more comfortable with the basic, like, how turns work and all that sort of stuff, and get back on that bike if you haven't played D&D for a very long time, or any other games that you might be interested in. And then you can try your hand at DMing. And I don't personally think you need to be an expert on the D&D rules before you start DMing. If you're a good storyteller, if you've got a passion for it, it's going to convey in your games. And particularly if you're playing with people who have played before, they'll be able to help you out with your rules questions and things like that. There's no stigma in being a beginner DM. And I know there's a lot of anxiety behind it, like performance anxiety and things, but really, if you're just keen to do it and willing to do it, there's about 30 players for every one DM out there, so you're not going to have a problem. As soon as you basically put it out there that I'm a new DM who wants to run a game, and I'm looking for either new players who haven't played before as well, so we can learn the system together, which is great, because everybody sort of goes, how does that work? And you end up with a sort of training session D&D thing. Or with existing players, people like me, for instance, who will go out of their way to find people who have not played the game before, because I like their fresh perspectives on the rules. They look at things without the pre-bias of previous editions and things like that. Or they're not trying to emulate any particular play style. They're just starting off with scratch and getting into it. I particularly like introducing new people to the game of D&D. Mainly because that also increases my social circle. I basically don't socialize a lot with people who don't play role-playing games. I'm like the extreme of that. So like if I'm sitting there next to somebody and they've got no idea about role-playing games or video games or anything like that, I struggle with things to talk about. Like I might be able to talk about genetics or quantum physics or something like that, but car mechanics, not really. Maybe a bit of cooking, something like that. But yeah, I struggle. I really gravitate towards people who I can sniff out somebody who plays role-playing games from a mile away. Thanks, friggin' Paco. What a name. Any news on when we might see a vid on the Deep Crows? There's so mysterious, but I can't find a lot on them. Are you talking about the dire corbies or actual Deep Crows? Hey, Macho. Hey, Macho, I didn't take offense at you saying that my moustache made me look like a cop. I've got no problem with that. As I said, I've got a couple of ex-cops in my family, so I've got no problem with police officers. Also, I'm not American, so we have a different attitude towards police. And yeah, it was the guy who said that I should shave my moustache off that I told, I basically said he could fuck off, because I don't appreciate people critiquing other people's appearances. Natsir, what are my favourite monsters from older editions that aren't in D&D 5th edition yet? Oh, there are many. What was one that Dungeon Dad was talking about recently? The Adherer which is basically a monster from the Fiend Folio. The original Fiend Folio has got a lot of monsters which are like gotcha monsters, so they're designed to look like something else, and the Adherer looks, to all intents and purposes to the uninformed, like a mummy, but it's actually a humanoid with adhesive skin that they can control to basically trap weapons and things like that. The tactics for dealing with a mummy is typically to cut their bindings, cut their wrappings, because the magic is in their wrappings, or set them on fire, because they can't sort of regenerate from that, and they go up because they're dry, so they go up like tinder. If you do that to the Adherer, it's going to result in either your weapon adhering to the Adherer and you losing it, and setting them on fire isn't going to work, because they're going to basically flame out and burn you as the adhesive inside them essentially catches fire. So it's like, oh, you thought this was a mummy, ha 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 ha. It's actually this nonsensical monster that has no real good reason for existing apart from mages did it. There's a lot of monsters like that in old versions of the game, which have a lot of fun, but these days your players might go, really? Like, why does the Adherer exist? But there's also like violet shriekers and all sorts of different things like that, the yellow musk creeper, corpse vines or stranglers, chokers, that sort of thing. There's all sorts of variants on different traditional monsters as well, like the Nilbolg, for instance, which is the like anti-goblin, that sort of thing. Yeah. And also like versions, if you take a purple worm and you put it under the ocean, it becomes a mottled worm because the coloration changes, but it's still just a purple worm, but it's got a different listing as a mottled worm. So you can encounter purple worms at sea, which is terrifying. Yeah, the police in New Zealand, it's a totally different situation. We've got social services and things which are separate from the police. So the police basically aren't dealing with domestic violence and things like that as much as they are in the States. Like, they're not called to every single emergency, and like an ambulance will very rarely have a situation where it can't enter the area because it's too dangerous, unless it's like a massive big student party, drinking festival, in which case the police may be called in to make it safe for the medical personnel to go in there. But generally speaking, New Zealanders are quite reasonable and good people. Although at the moment we are having, the nurses are on strike because of pay conditions, which is understandable after all the stress with the isolation and stuff. Genetics, isn't that a poor man's applied biology? Which is a poor man's applied chemistry, which is a poor man's applied physics, which is an average man's maths. Yeah, that's exactly right. Genetics is basically mixing together various fluids which are not funny colours, so that like, which one's this? Well, it's clear liquid number 1 or clear liquid number 2. If we didn't have labels on this, I could not tell you what it is. This is a mild concentration of vinegar. This is a mild concentration of some sort of acid, but they're at a specific concentration which will cut through that particular gene chain there. Yeah, and this is a protein which will cut the snip these particular bits of genetics off this material. But yeah, it's basically washing dishes and mixing liquids and squirting them through a pipette. That's what genetics is. And if you're in a genetics lab and they've got a microscope, you're in the wrong lab, because we don't use microscopes in genetics. Anyway. Have I ever played or run a game of Dark Sun? What do you think about the setting? I've used a lot of elements of Dark Sun, but I've never actually played the full-on Dark Sun setting, mainly because I find the entire backstory and origin of the Dark Sun world to be incredibly dark and depressing. Like, the world was ruined. It was originally a world which was populated and owned by halflings, and all of the races on the planet that were not brought in from other worlds are all descendants and mutations of halflings. So halflings were the original people of the world of Athos, Dark Sun. And the problem came when there was one particular mystic. And also it was a world that never really had access to magic. They never really developed magical technology. So they used psionics mostly. And they always developed, they had to draw on the power of the world to power their, like the feng shui was the way that they powered their magical spells. But then there was this one particular individual who was like a broken and mutated dude who was started off basically with good intentions, good and kind and stuff, but he was immortal, and eventually he came to the conclusion that anyone who wasn't a halfling was basically ruining the world, and they were using the magic of the world too much, and they were pushing beyond the ability of the world to regenerate itself and causing desert regions and blight. What happened then was he basically discovered magic, or invented magic on that world. And he did this terrible thing, which was he drew on the power of the sun itself to power his magic. And he basically artificially aged the sun, and he bleached the planet of all of its oceans. And well, it went from being a world of archipelagos and a vast ocean to being a world of lush green continents and islands to being a world of dried up oceans and vast deserts, and that's the situation that we're in now in Dark Sun. So these immortal evil servants of his, or basically his apprentices and warlords that he sent out to kill all the non-halflings, are these violent despots which now live in cities across all these deserts and the few places where there's the ability to grow food, or there's wells and things like that, because water is very scarce, metal is very scarce. It's a grim Mad Max Fury Road sort of situation, and while it is fun to play a few like short games like that, or like some few game sessions, or occasionally I will transport a gaming party to the world of Athos briefly, and then they get off there again and go somewhere else. It's too grim a campaign setting even for me. It's just unrelentingly dark. So if you really read all the backstory and stuff, there are some really good lore videos on the origin of the Dark Sun world setting and things. But yeah, it's very grim. You hear diarrhea is hereditary; it runs in the genes. Nice. Hey AJ, do you have any New Zealand produced shows you recommend to us Americans? I'd be interested in checking out some cool stuff. Well, obviously Hercules, Legend of Hercules, Xena Warrior Princess, Gladiator, Blood and Sand, Spartacus, what else? Lord of the Rings. There's a ton. Australia, of course, had what was it called? Farscape, their sci-fi series that went for a long time. There's quite a few. What We Do in the Shadows, the sort of comedy fantasy stories, or Wellington Paranormal, which is a really if you want hardcore dry New Zealand humour, Wellington Paranormal is hilarious. It's basically a bunch of ordinary police officers who are dealing with paranormal events, and the way that New Zealand police officers talk, like the cadence of their talking and stuff, the particular style of talking that they have, lends itself really well to being that like straight man, back bouncing board for the comedy going on behind them sort of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of different shows and things which I could recommend. And of course, they're producing another prequel of the Hobbit TV series or Netflix series or something, and they're filming that around New Zealand and places as well. This is vinegar and this is acid, which also happens to be a vinegar. An alkali and an acid then, okay? This is lemon juice. Hunt for the Wilder People? Yep, that's good. Sinbad live action show. No, I don't remember that. Yeah, I was actually in an episode of Xena. I was one of the monks that was guarding that was in the village where the jewel that the Prince of Thieves, Bruce Campbell, was after this particular jewel, and Xena was after this particular jewel as well. I think it was episode 118 or 318 or something like that. And I'm one of the monks in a full-on like habit thingy walking around in there. I had long hair and stuff at the time. That was basically why I got recruited for the show as an extra. But you don't really see my face at all. But I was there. If you ever see the scene where the Prince of Thieves, Bruce Campbell, is running up a carpeted stairwell, like little steps that go up into a house, and Xena pulls the rug out from under him on the steps and he falls down. I was standing right behind where they were filming, watching that. Also, I was standing there and I saw all of the takes that they did where she was dunking his head in a barrel of water. That was hilarious. They did that a lot, and he was getting like he's got a really good sense of humor. Bruce Campbell. They've all got like a lot of tolerance for like, because Bruce Campbell is an awesome dude. He's just a great human being. He's like, as an extra, I didn't want to bother him, so I just sort of, he was walking by after a costume change and stuff like that, and I just sort of went, hi, and he's like, hey everybody, and off he goes. And it's just a day on the job for him. There's a lot of like waiting around for them to set up the scene and all that sort of stuff and getting everything ready, and then they get called in for filming, and there's lots of takes and waiting and stuff like that. So there's a lot of waiting around. It's kind of like being in the army. You wait around. Find entertainment for yourself. Us monk extras had these really nice leather shoes, and they were perfect for playing hacky sack. It was a really hot day, so we had our felt monk outfits build up around our waists with our legs free, and we're wearing jeans underneath those, right? And we're playing hacky sack, and we made too much noise, and the assistant director, the AD, came out and was like, shut up, we're filming. And we're like, shit, we're sorry. And yeah, I did 3 days of filming there, and didn't get invited back. I think it was because we made too much noise playing hacky sack. But that was a long time ago. Yeah, I was in a Bruce. He was playing the Prince of Thieves. I never met Kevin Sorbo. Not really a fan of Kevin Sorbo. His acting's great. Kevin Sorbo in real life, I don't agree with his policies, his politics. My group stumbled into the Shadowfell. What's a strange creature from there I could throw at them that they would not be familiar with? Probably the Sorrow Sworn would be pretty good examples. Shadows, of course, are perfect. Shadakai. What else? You could come up with all sorts of different shadow versions of things. Like little mini sturges being like dire mosquitoes. I would suggest going and watching that movie Night Watch, because they've got a really good take on the Shadowfell. That gives you some good idea of the vibe of like the Shadowfell is actually hungry for life and blood. Like it's got a vampiric sort of nature to it. Things like living dreams or living nightmares. So it's like a little illusion, like a living spell illusionary landscape that compels you through suggestion and command to follow a particular story, which if you don't break out of it will result in you getting injured or losing something fairly vital, because it's replaying over and over again this particular nightmare, which was so strong it actually perpetuated itself. Watching old episodes of Sapphire and Steel from the BBC has that sort of low budget but high atmosphere horror feel, like heavily suspenseful. Were you testing out my filter there, Nat Sir? Anyway, folks, we are nearing the last half hour of the first 24 hours of the Kickstarter. I'm just going to check on the totals. Where are we at? Let's refresh. We're at 12,500 of the 18,000 goal. So we're going to be a little bit short. But we've made it to 69% funded. Nice. 69, dude. I'm chuffed. That's great. Oh, sorry, Kakastuk. I'm not really paying that huge of attention to... there it is. The super chats on this one. Researching Yuan-ti on Faerun, your video on them is good race-based resource, but do you have any more Toril-based lore for them? I hear there are houses. Yeah, I haven't really, I've got to put more research into the Yuan-ti. Part of the interest in the Yuan-ti is their conflict with the Eleutheri, because I'm researching the Elven history, and my next step in the Elven history video series is the Crown Wars. So that's when the Eleutheri got involved with Miaratar and Aravandor, Arivandar, those sort of elven nations further to the north and to the east. So the Eleutheri were in the hot southern jungles and areas in the peninsula around Chult and the Lake of Steam and the Shar and things like that. That was all dark elven territory. And the Thindul and Samarak and the whole areas of the jungles of Chult were basically the Yuan-ti imperial nexus. That's where their center of power was. And a lot of the involvement of the Quatal who were basically summoned to Chult to fight and eradicate the Yuan-ti by Obtau and the native people there. So, and of course the Dark Elves fought the Yuan-ti pretty tooth and claw, particularly over the range that separates Thindul and Samarak. That whole region there. So the black jungles and the mare jungles are infested with Yuan-ti and the black scale lizard folk and things like that. Yeah. And you can still see ruins, like the Shining Sea has got some sunken ruins of dark elven strongholds and things like that. The southern coast, so outside of beyond Drambrath, there's all these islands that got buried by the ocean, which have got ruins, undersea ruins of the dark elves. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. And a lot, of course, the Underdark around there has got the first forays of the dark elven people into the underground. So yeah. Yep, I'm just going to dampen my cloth a bit. Hang on. Just need to get some water. Okay, let's do a proper demo here. Where's my camera thingy so I can see what I'm doing? Okay, here we go. Switch over to the other camera. So here's a dampened cloth. Same sort of cloth. Where should we start? We'll start with the wilderness map. I think that's been on the longest. Got a little bit of smudging up there where I've been moving my arm back and forth on it while I've been talking to you. So I'm going to be using a dry dishcloth and the dampened bench cloth. These are just wet dryer markers, Crayola wet dry markers, the take note markers, so they come off really easy. Oh, that's the bit where the permanent marker was mixed with the that area there was where the permanent marker was mixed with the Crayola marker. It's now gone. And then what I suggest you do, if you want to use it straight away, is you want to dry off that surface so that the marker pens won't interact with any water on the surface that's still remaining there. And then you can dry on it straight away. La-da. So there you go. Actually, I'll just clean off the whole sheet. Here's our undersea. Of course, if you've got different coloured markers, I was just using basically black and white there to represent the symbology. But of course, you've got a full range of different coloured marker pens. And of course, with this surface, you can use any type of marker pen, except I recommend you do not use red Sharpie, red permanent marker. Do not use the red permanent marker on here, because it will actually leave a faint stain on there. I suspect that it will fade under sustained sunlight, but I can't guarantee that, and I recommend you don't use red permanent marker pens on the surface. That's it. Okay, so that's all clean. Flip her back over. Comes off like a breeze. You can also use alcohol on here if you want to, or turpentine, or I don't know, Zippo lighter fluid, or nitroglycerin, Swarfiga glycerin, Listerine mouthwash, wine, vinegar, genetic fluid, cerebral fluid, spinal fluid, water, solidified nitrogen. There you go. All done. Completely fresh and clean and ready to go. I also really like this just as a surface for my bench top. And while I've been playing online recently, I've been leaving notes with like magic item, oath bow, 900 platinum pieces that I found in in the Storm King's castle. We've been playing Storm King's Thunder over every fortnight. Had a game today, actually. It was really good. So there you go. That's how easy it is to clean up the mat. Mind Flayer spawn fluid, yeah. Is a red Expo marker okay? Yeah, as long as it's not basically a permanent marker pen with a red pigment. But a red dry erase pen is absolutely fine, or even like a felt tip or like that sort of thing. Just not the Sharpies or Vivid markers, the permanent marker pens in red. Those are the only ones we've found to cause a problem. You've been drawing your own 1-inch grids ever since watching you. Can we get the unmarked, transparent, and A4 and both the... You want an A4 sized? What you can do is, like, they're so cheap, you can just buy the large unmarked sheet and just cut, because it's an A1 sized, they cut down to exactly 4 A4 size. Oh, actually more than 4. I think you get 6 A4 size sheets out of the one sheet. So instead of manufacturing the smaller sheets, just buy the one big sheet and cut it up into the smaller ones. Save yourself on shipping costs and things like that. Super easy. Oh, did you see Bree come in? Hey, Bree. Gimme. Please do not go behind the computer. Where did you go? Bree. Hey. What are you doing? That's where you hide from me. If the live stream cuts out suddenly with a sizzling sound, I will have lost a cat, because she's right in behind my computer amongst all my cords and things. Bree. Come on. Yeah, she doesn't want to come out. Cool for Legos. Yeah, I suppose so. Yep, that's Brie. Oh, there she is. Come on, Brie. Oh, she's a big girl now. There we go. Brie makes her first cameo. Is pink permanent marker an issue? I'd imagine so. Yeah, the idea that black permanent marker is so easy to don't smooch the microphone. No. She's feisty. She's wondering what I'm doing this live streaming. I don't normally talk when I'm by myself, so she doesn't understand that I'm talking to people. I am. I'll switch over to kitten cam. Cat proof, as you can see. Cats just slide straight off. It's like, what the hell? Get the evil cloth. Sorry, cats. I should also mention that this makes a perfect surface for putting underneath your cat bowl. You know, if you happen to have a messy cat eater. She's in a funny mood. AJ's rag of holding. Yeah, you can see this has gotten a lot of use with the wet dry erasers. Can we get both of the one-sided in the transparent as well? Brian, yeah, you can get, so the next, at 80% funding, we're going to unlock the transparent sheets with the one side printed with either a hex or the square pattern. Obviously, you can't print both on either side like with this one because it will show through from the other side. But yeah, we're doing the transparent mats with the grid because we've had people ask us for that. Yep, so currently the battle maps are available, but the previous extras will be available as stretch goal unlocks. Yep, so they unlock as add-ons that you add to your basic pledge. So the basic pledge is just one battle mat, and then you can add on as many other products as you want, including multiples of battle mats. If you want 60 battle mats, you can order 60 battle mats. If you want one battle mat and 4 character sheets, or one battle mat with double-sided, and then one with double-sided with square, or one double-sided with hex, or one which has got square on one side and blank on the other, that's totally doable as well. We've got options that are unlocked for those as well, so you can add lots of different combinations of things to your heart content, and as many as you want to order. And then we calculate shipping once the Kickstarter is fully funded and completely over in the next, after the end of 29 days. We send out a reward survey to you. You finalize your address, you finalize and lock in your order, and you will have the opportunity to purchase any additional extras. You will have already had your when the Kickstarter funding reaches the end of the funding period, everyone's cards get charged, but with the reward survey you have the option, because we're going to be charging the shipping separate and customized for exactly where you are and exactly what the weight of the total products that you have ordered. That's your opportunity, your last opportunity to add any extra add-ons that you want to your order after the Kickstarter is finished, but before your rewards are sent out, if that makes perfect sense to everybody. Yeah, obviously don't use a Stanley knife or scissors on your silicon rubber mat. It's going to withstand a lot of abuse. In fact, you can poke it with a fork, even like spreads things on with like a butter knife and stuff, but obviously don't use a box cutter blade or scissors or anything like that on there, because it will cut into the rubber. It's not like a crafting mat. It doesn't self-heal like those do. AJ's house has battle mats under everything. If I could get a tent. Bree is 1 year old. She's a little over 1 year old. I think she's now eating some trash. Yeah, a lot of YouTubers are cat people. It just suits the lifestyle, I think. 5,300 to go. Man, we might actually get fully funded within the first 2 days. No problem. That'll be great. It's going to switch over to my other camera. Oh. Can I do this with this metal? Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I can do it with that. Hang on. There we go. Cheers, everyone. Drinking Monty's Black Beer. One size fits all cloth. Thanks, Peter Yarl. You show only about 3,800 to go. It might be in a different currency for you. Let's have a look. What does it say? Whoa! I love it when it shoots up like that. We've got 344 backers at 12,733 New Zealand dollars of the $18,000 total. So, yep, we're about 5,000 off, fully funded, which is fantastic. In the first 24 hours, that is more than I possibly could have hoped for. 70% funded, everybody. That is awesome. So it's definitely happening. That is great. Having a beer to celebrate. Perkins Dearborn, you're most welcome, man. It's been great. I love hanging out with you fine folks. Cat claw resistant? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the cats aren't going to savage it unless you really provoke them. And from what I've seen, Bree is not interested in scratching it like a scratching pole surface, because they don't really like scratching on surfaces which are that don't have that catch on their claws. As you saw, she just sort of laid down on it and walked around on it just like a vinyl surface. Fire Newts are still in the works. I've got a half-finished script on Main's demons, and also the rat fiends as well. So it's going to be demons and demons this week. You just checked one more while I was talking. Yeah. Yep, it's not laminated, crazy durable. And they just feel good. Might be able to retire after this. I doubt it. Anyway, I love what I do. I wouldn't retire even if I had enough money to. I'm gonna be making, as long as YouTube exists, basically, I'm gonna be making YouTube D&D videos. We heard you like demons, so we put demons in your demon, yeah. What about dragons? Yep, more dragons on the way. We've got some planet dragons to talk about as well, particularly the fiendish dragons. Do you think we might get a dedicated field folio for 5th edition, or did Mordenkainen take that spot? What I'd like to see is actually more of a natural history stuff for discussing what interesting flora and fauna that aren't necessarily monsters, but have some backstory. They're sort of like some extra additional stuff, like, for instance, trees, which are different, have different qualities. The duskwoods and stuff like that, and the particular wood that they use for spell books and things, form important trade considerations and cultural aspects to a location which shade the entire area. Like a particular type of mineral that is not common on Earth but is mined in a certain area of the Forgotten Realms, so it has magical properties or industrial properties, perhaps magic resistant properties, things like that, really important. And also communities tend to pop up nearby to castles and fortifications where the people that travelled to that area lived in their hovels and things while they were building the castle and stuff. And one of the first things they do is they'll build the vaults and protected areas in the castle to store the community's valuables, such as spices and things like that, and food and things, and their tools. The masons were considered to be almost mythical. They were attributed with healing powers and magical powers because of their skills and importance in the community, and masons travelled far and wide across the medieval world. So the same would be true for the Forgotten Realms. Specialist mages who deal with construction and things like that are a thing. So yeah. Hello, baby. Spirit wood trees that have different coloured sap, indicating that they're unique, stronger, more flexible, magically charged, etc. Yeah, like trees that are particularly renowned for making wands and wizard staffs and things. Like trees that have been hit by lightning storms or wild magic effects would be really cool. Hey, Bree. I've made some videos, particularly about Far North, like with the Legends of Frozen Far book that I helped out with. I made sure that we included a lot of information on the flora and fauna that of the Forgotten Realms area of the Frozen North, so Icewind Dale and the Spine of the World Mountains around there. That'd be green spirit wood for wands and staves. Yeah, nice. Yeah, medicinal plants. Kingsfoil. How many times has Kingsfoil come up in like the Hobbit movie and the Lord of the Rings? Twice, but quite important for dealing with poison. Volo's Guide to All Things Magical has some neat tree and metal stuffs. Yep, and you can find that on the DM's Guild, I think. More of a background type book, yeah. Yeah, there's a link to the Kickstarter down below the video. That'll take you straight to it. All right, everybody, we're in the last 9 minutes of the live stream. If you want to have a chat about anything else, any other questions? Yeah, there's also lots of planar ores like abyssal steel and things like that, which have got interesting properties. And I quite like the idea of being a interdimensional merchant that basically deals with bulk goods. Yeah, old issues of Dragon Magazine have got articles on particular things like that in the Forgotten Realms and various other world settings, Greyhawk and stuff. What's my favourite living trap? Probably something like a yellow musk creeper, or just the shrieker, the violet shrieker. So fungus makes some of my favourite, and plants make some of my favourite traps. Hey, Wenzel the Cleric, I'm doing well, thank you. You've just caught the tail end of this live stream. The transparent battle mats are frosted clear, so they're not optically transparent clear like PVC plastic would be, but PVC plastic obviously has got phthalates, and it's not environmentally friendly. It contributes to ocean waste. It contributes to landfill waste. It's not as durable. Doesn't have the same properties for resisting chemicals and all the marker pens, and you can't use permanent markers on them and that sort of thing. Like I wouldn't hit it with anything hot like a hot glue gun or something like that, but the silicon mat certainly can. So think about if you're building something with green stuff and epoxy putty, or even epoxy glue, right? So imagine you're building something out of fiberglass and you've got a template on the table beneath the clear, the transparent mat. You put the transparent mat over that, then you pour epoxy resin and fiberglass over top of that, and you can literally build it according and cut it according, or build it to the edges of that thing, and then take it off, and you can cut it afterwards. The fiberglass will not stick to the silicon. So just little applications like that. Hello, you're standing right in front of me. Please don't smooch the microphone. I know you're being cute. Yeah, 5th edition needs more. It needs to point out where you can find the resources. If they're not willing to make source books on it, then at least they can show you where they can make omnibuses of the old Dragon Magazine articles and things like that are available for people, because they haven't really aged. They're just as relevant now, a lot of the material. On the Plane of Fire, you find a pristine silicon Battlemat. I like it. Oh, look out for the keyboard. Would I make a video where I'm talking about the most important or best articles from Dragon Magazine? Whoa, that's a big task. Because yeah, I probably could. Like what I think are some of the best issues of Dragon Magazine over the years. Yeah. Not over 500 degrees. Yeah. Yep, there hasn't been a lot like the interest in the Faerun. Oh, seriously, the smooching of the thing. Come here. There hasn't been as much interest in those Forgotten Realms deep dive lore on specific regions things as I hoped, but I still want to do an overview of the Forgotten Realms and talk about all the different regions in one big video with lots of timestamps and stuff, so that people have got a one-stop video, kind of like the Faiths and Clerics of the Forgotten Realms video that I did with all the timestamps for the specific regions. So you'll be able to go to minute 45 where I talk about Thay specifically, or minute 28 where I talk about Jacinta, that sort of thing. And also there's a really good map resource that this guy just invented recently, which is a GPS globe map that you can basically navigate like Google Maps to the exact Forgotten Realms. So it gives you the exact scale and location of everything in relation to each other. It's brilliant. Words do not describe how cool it is to do a flyby over the world map of Faerun. The mat on the Plane of Fire is non-magical +1. Yeah. I imagine that like leather armor from the Plane of Fire would basically be like silicon rubber. Oh no, Bree! No, hang on. Seriously. You can't sit on top of a bunch of marker pens and dice. What are you, crazy? She's like being super cute, disruptive. She's actually like mad at me. You can see her tail is slashing from side to side, so she's like in my face, so that she can bite at me if I move her. Rastide, yeah, that will work. I'll link the map in the community tab on the channel. How's that? It's a work in progress. Like, he's just started out, but you can see the potential instantly. And also, he's got all these links to all the cities and stuff on the map, which hot link to information on wikis and things like that. So it's a really good resource. Bree is queen. That's true. She's like staring me right in the face. Hello. Yeah, cats always sit right on the keyboard, it's true. It's the most precarious, like, uncomfortable position, but she knows that I'm, like, steering right in that direction. How big is the battle map in the Kickstarter? It's a standard size A1 sheet, paper sheet, international paper sheet. So it's, what is it? It's like 83 by 20. I can't remember off the top of my head. There is a little graphic showing in the video of the Kickstarter. When you first play it, it will show you the exact dimensions on one of the images in the montage. Bree, what are you doing? What are you doing? If you jump off there, you're going to land right in my camera equipment. You realize this. Don't walk on the printer either. I'm going to have to go and spend some cat keyboard speak, yeah. I'm going to have to go and spend some quality time with Bree. Okay, it's 23.5 by 33 inches. There you go. That's your standard A1 size sheet. So it's fairly big. Hang on. I'm a big dude, but it's certainly big enough. There we go. Oh, this is a rubber that will also carry a static charge, by the way. So if you, yeah, so it might have like hair or something stick to it, but obviously you can just wipe that off with a cloth. Talking of cats. Tracing cats, what they do. Yeah, it's huge. Had to contribute to pay back all the times your videos have lulled me off to dreamland when I can't sleep. Really enjoy the lore when I'm awake as well. Thanks, Jonathan. That's awesome. Okay, everybody, it's time for me to go. Thank you for joining me on this this last stretch of the 24 hours of the first 24 hours of the Kickstarter. Thank you to everybody who has backed. I'm looking forward to unlocking even more goodies for you to add on to your pledge. And if you got any questions or anything like that, hit me up in the comment section down below. And of course, join me on the community tab on the channel for any additional updates on the Kickstarter, and of course the updates on the Kickstarter itself. Sign up for like $1 or something on the Kickstarter, just so you're getting all the notifications and things like that. And if you find the funds to back it later on, you can do that if you want. But yeah, you'll never get a better deal on these large silicon mats. I can guarantee you. All right, catch you later.